All right. Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is Mia Dan. We are getting started. This is our AI Experts monthly webinar hosted by Women in AI Ethics every last Thursday of the month. Today, we have a special guest with us, Professor Timo Roos. I will make quick introductions, but folks if people can put a quick note in the chat and let us know, is this your first event or have you attended an event with us before? That's always curious because some people have been with us for a long time. Some have just found us. But if you've just found us, welcome. We're excited to have you. And if you have been joining us for the last few months, every session is different and we bring in experts who can help share the expertise in different dimensions of AI ethics. So without further ado, we'll get started. Women in AI Ethics, we do have a newsletter. Our focus is making sure elevated voices in AI they are always elevated, and we make sure we give a platform to lesser heard voices. So if you're not able to chat, apologies, we are still working on that. We'll make sure that you are able to chat. Give me just 1 second. We're just checking on that. Okay. Okay, thank you, Gabby. And Gabby is a superstar who's behind the scene, who'll be managing any questions you have. She's making sure that the chat is enabled. So as we get started, wanted to make sure you knew that we have a newsletter that you can sign up for. We also have volunteer opportunities. We have some exciting updates coming for our volunteer program. Do sign up. We will again as soon as the chat is enabled, we'll start putting links to all our social media accounts. So we will be connected in every way and then some. I have to a big shout out and thank you to the Consulate General of Finland for giving us access to this beautiful space. As you might notice, the greenery, this is not our usual backdrop. We are in New York currently, and we are on the 7th floor of this beautiful space, thanks to, again, our Finnish colleagues. So that said, let me do a intro, the short version, because we don't have a lot of time, of Professor Timo Roos. He's an AI professor, not just an AI professor, the AI professor at the University of Helsinki. He's also the creator of the course, Elements of AI. It's an online course for non-technical people. It has been around for years, and millions of people have taken this course. It is available now in 30 languages. And after you finish the course, and I've taken it myself, it's really great. Teaches you all the basics and then some. And you get a certificate you can put on LinkedIn as well. He's a visiting fellow at the University of Cambridge. He's a visiting researcher at MIT, UC San Diego, USC, and he's also a visiting postdoc at UC Berkeley. And he has won numerous awards. I could keep going on, but we'll be all here all day. The reason we've invited him today, he has been a fierce champion and ally for women in AI ethics. He is on a board of advisors, and our board of advisors is very diverse. We encourage more people. We have rock stars, people who are amazing, do amazing work in different parts of technology or adjacent areas. But we also have folks who are not directly related to technology, but they work in other policy, which are all very critical to the AI space. And he was instrumental in setting up the collaboration between the Finnish Center of AI and Women in AI Ethics. What this means, we will share with you shortly. We have a lot of, again, exciting updates for you, and making the most of Teemu's very brief visit to New York. I am so happy that you were able to squeeze this into your busy schedule. So you'll use that as your mic, Teemu, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Mia. Very, very happy to be here, and great that we could do this in all this greenery. Very proud to be on this excellent webinar.
Amazing. I know Finland always leads in sustainability, so it makes sense we would have a thematic decor to match the theme and your ethos. So I would love to get started with, I have shared information that is widely available to everyone. You can look it up online. But can you share a little bit about yourself that people don't know? I am very curious. How did you get started? What sparked your interest in machine learning and teaching?
Okay, so I'll try to keep it brief, so that we can also talk about other topics. But well, I guess what many people don't know is that the reason why I became, or like went into machine learning and research, is that I got bored. So I was studying to become a programmer. I had sort of set myself the goal of just getting a degree in computer science and learning programming and going into the industry as a software developer. But then when I was working, while I was already like studying, I was working part-time, I realized that the kind of routine software development work, well, to me, it wasn't exciting. It got a little bit sort of repetitive and routine. So to be honest, my sort of decision to do a PhD and become a researcher was something that I did because I wanted to at least delay going, when I, tongue in cheek, I say like for real work. So I wanted to sort of do something else. And then of course, then I started really getting interested in AI and machine learning, which was already, this was like last millennium, right? It's a really sort of ancient history in a way. And AI wasn't, a huge thing back in those days. But I really got curious about it. So as we discussed at some point, I kind of find this, I'm kind of I'm driven by curiosity. So I got curious. I got so curious that I couldn't help sort of learning more and more and more. And being a researcher is very nice in the sense that you can satisfy your curiosity about things and learn more and then share it with others. So that's the short of it. Yeah, so that's how I got into machine learning. And then you asked about teaching. Well, it's a part of the deal, right? If you work in the academia, then everybody who does research, they also are expected to teach, and vice versa. So I did that, and I started at the advanced courses because I find that those are the easiest to teach, because at the advanced level, let's say master's, PhD level, the students are already kind of very autonomous. They're kind of learning machines. You can point them at a topic and say, well, next week come back and not have those skills or know that thing. But then as I progressed, I guess I sort of found it a challenge to go to the more beginner level things where the learners are also like learning to learn as they are learning the topic. And that again, I got curious about how you could sort of do that better and better. And the computer science department at the University of Helsinki has really focused a lot on rethinking education in many ways. So we like the elements of AI and all the other MOOCs are good examples of that. Taking new approaches and sort of experimenting with new approaches to teaching, especially the beginner level courses. So that's been very inspiring, and I've been supported a lot by our research community in sort of just being curious about how to teach and then exploring ways, and sort of that's sort of very yeah, it's very curious, right? And
I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah.
Curiosity drives you, and I feel like such a great skill. And that's critical, right, for researchers. So definitely. So we were able to enable chat. I want to make sure everybody's here. Hi, Henrietta from Munich. Sarah. Oh, hi. I'm Valerie. Welcome. From Rochester, New York. We have such an amazing. Hi, Kina. Is that Kina? Yes. Hi. I just wanted to say hi. Chat is enabled, so go crazy. Post and let us know about yourself. We're so happy to have you. If you're just
someone from Munich, so
yeah.
Hello, Europeans.
We have moved the timing around a little. We want to make sure that we reach as many people as possible. So it was early in the days when people from the West Coast couldn't make it, and actually people did start joining us. And I was And then someone pointed out it was 6 a.m. I'm not a morning person, so I'm like, we won't do that to you. So we moved it to 11. Just another housekeeping items. We do record these sessions, and they're always all the sessions available on our YouTube channel. So just give it another week, and you'll see this pop up, and you're like, what did he say? I missed this part. I missed the beginning. You can have access to it. So welcome. Glad you all could make it. So today we have Professor Timo Roos, such a special treat. He is joining us from Helsinki. He's in New York for a few days, and we just took this opportunity very spontaneously to get him to join us. He's a fierce ally of women in AI ethics. And he has been since the partner in crime since the beginning of Women in AI ethics, very close to the beginning. So I have another question, and I'm sure a lot of people have this question about Finns. According to the World Happiness Index for 2024, Finland once again ranked #1, ahead of USA, ahead of UK, ahead of other European countries. So I have a question now. Why are you Finns so happy? Is it the cold weather? Is it the taxes you pay? Or is it like socialism? What is it? What is your secret?
Well, every time this World Happiness Report comes out and Finland is on the top, like now, I don't know how many years in a row, all Finns are kind of cringing a little bit, and so feeling a little bit awkward. Like, are we really? I mean, so we're like always questioning that as well. So I think it's sort of not something that we're very complacent about. Like, we're not saying, oh, that's, now we've reached perfection. Just like let it be like that and not sort of strive forward, which I guess is a good thing. That's what probably keeps us sort of up in the rankings. But in fact, like if you go through that report and you study it, like, what does it mean? Like, it's very hard to define happiness. You can't just go around and people like, are you happy or not? I mean, you can, but you probably get very sort of strange results. And so in a way, if you look at the methods that they use in that report and that ranking, it's basically a measure of well-being rather than happiness. So it's measuring health outcomes, life expectancy, health at various ages. It's measuring basically lack of poverty and having just the basic necessities of life. It's also measuring various like social relationships, whether whether there's loneliness or whether people have some people they can talk to, but they can trust and seek help from, and that's the type of happiness that is being measured. And I do in that sense it makes sense. Like, as a Finn, I'm very happy of all those things that there are these social support mechanisms. Some of them indeed covered by the tax money, that we do pay quite a lot of tax. But then everybody kind of acknowledges that you do get so much in return. We've got free education, universities are free, healthcare system, the public healthcare system is very, very good. And like overall, of course, there's issues and problems, but nonetheless, like I think overall, the well-being of Nordic countries place most Nordic countries at the top of that ranking, and we're very proud of that.
Well, congratulations. I think it makes sense. It is well-being, but I feel like happiness is just more buzzier.
Yeah.
But that's really all the things that you outlined: healthcare, safety, education. There's so many things that are so important to a well-being and overall happiness. So I appreciate you sharing that. Something to aspire to.
And just one more thing to add on top of that. I think one like buzzword or keyword in addition to happiness and well-being is, and what I was just like looking at the report again, one thing that sort of also pops up from that is trust. I think like trust to fellow citizens is one thing that they try and quantify. They found that that's an indicator that is related with many aspects of happiness and well-being, and that is definitely something I think sort of we keep sort of coming and sort of getting back to that point that Finland is really a trust-based society, that we do trust authorities, we trust the media by and large, not always, obviously, but by and large, we trust each other, and that is such a resource. You can imagine that if you don't trust people that you're working with, or people that you're, seeking help from, let's say from the authorities, it's a very different setting to when you do, and then it makes so many things easier and fluent. And I think that like maintaining that trust is really a challenge, and that's something we need to make sure. And then that has some sort of connections to AI and social media and algorithms that are used there, which have a tendency to erode trust if they're not sort of controlled, and if we don't sort of pay attention to that risk.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. You're absolutely right. We don't talk about trust nearly enough. And the time, it's interesting that you say about AI, because AI is both responsible through disinformation, deepfakes, or erosion of trust. But at the same time, a lot of effort is being put into building trustworthy AI systems. But I think the problem might be a human one rather than a technological one. So more on that later. But I have a quick check-in to do with everyone. Folks, can you hear him okay? Okay, I am I'm trying to read through some of the comments. I think you have a big fan here from, and let's see, connect. Okay, Padmini, thank you so much for the shout out for University of Helsinki. The course is the most comprehensive. Yes, they've done an amazing job, and it's all free. You can go on right now and be completely updated on this, what's happening in AI, and be solid in your foundation. Oh, thank you, Farah. Thank you, and thank you for. I appreciate you joining us, really. Thank you. We have a great community here. So we'll keep going. Are you okay? Thank you, Gabby. Gabby, again, if you don't know, is the superstar who behind the scenes does a lot of our helps us with these events. And you'll always she's also the person behind Instagram. So when somebody messaging you, that's Gabby. So now you can put a name to the messages you get as well. And Lindley, if you ever reach out to us via LinkedIn, that's Lindley. So we have an amazing team. So let's talk about, we had a great conversation. So you've been in town for a few days and we are packed it with meetings, right? We have had so many conversations, meetings, productive conversations. There's something you said yesterday, and I do want to touch on, but even before you go there, today in America, diversity is a bad word. Right, so many white men, DEI programs are under attack, and many rich, powerful, even not so rich and powerful men feel victimized. You are, as a white man, do you feel victimized? Is it different in Finland? Is this an American phenomenon? Like, what are you saying? What's your perspective?
It's not an American phenomenon. It's also true that if you do a survey on how many people in different groups feel that they've been discriminated against, I think middle-aged white men come on top, even in Finland. And I, at some point, I was kind of making fun of that, like as sort of thinking of myself and not feeling victimized at all. So I don't have.
But you joke about it.
I joke about it. But I perhaps I shouldn't, because I at some point I was joking about it around, and then some people said that that's kind of, it's not very productive because it's sort of polarizing. And I'm sure, I mean, obviously there are middle-aged white men, and every category and group of people. Some of them are experiencing discrimination, and that is true. I shouldn't sort of say that no white man can be discriminated against. So I think it's sort of it's a very sensitive topic, and it's not. I mean, I might like joke about it because I can. I guess sort of I'm privileged. I don't have sort of problems where my professional or private life would be disturbed by either systemic or just some people sort of discriminating against me because of the way I am. So I guess I'm sort of trying to understand that some people do experience discrimination, but myself, no. I'm good. So
So glad because my
and
question.
I feel like, I mean, as sort of in the privileged position where I am, and I have a platform, I have authority as a professor, as and so on, so forth. I feel like maybe what I can do is then sort of try and help and try and be generous towards other people, and as a part of that is the women in AI ethics, and that's why I sort of wanted to sort of do what I can to help your initiative.
Thank you so much for saying that, because the key is, it's really what you just said, is acknowledging your privilege, that you are a privileged man, and then using that privilege to help elevate others, like others who are affected by the issues that you said don't affect you. So even it's not out of self-interest, it's not saviorism, because there's a lot of saviorism that happens. Like, we'll jump in and we'll save you, and we don't need saving. We need more research, we need more support, we need somebody to open the doors, which you have been doing. You've been building bridges for us, you've been helping us. Every meeting I go into, Tim was right there, and this is why, and telling everyone, this is why you should support women in AI ethics, this is why you should support diversity. So you've been such an amazing ally, so I thank you for that. And over the years, consistently, over the years, because one thing Teemu and I have in common is we are both very direct people. I realized just this recently. We are very, no mincing words. I think I'm diplomatic somehow, but you and I are so direct. And I always say, I hope I didn't offend you, because I seem to offend men a lot.
I haven't done that.
And you're still here.
I'm still here. Yeah.
Yes, being honest, it is absolutely key, having honesty, but having that trust is so important in allyship.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So again, going back to yesterday, you said many issues in AI are not about math or science. And that's interesting, coming from someone who's so steeped in machine learning, so steeped in computer science. And you said the issues are social, political, economic, and, for example, AI productivity. Can you share a little bit about the conversation, that continuing on that theme of incentive structures and how that plays a role in how AI is developed? And can you please compare and contrast for us Finland's approach to AI and America's approach to AI, and how those differ?
Yeah, so at least I can say that as a computer scientist, as a like math person, let's say, or technical person, I've come to realize that there are limits to what I can do with that background, that skill set. I mean, obviously, I can learn more, and I can learn to appreciate other views, but I sort of I don't sort of think that, or I've come to learn that you can't solve all problems by proving theorems. Many problems can be helped by that theoretical understanding, and it's a part of the puzzle. But then we need so much more. And the good thing is that now, when we're talking about AI, like 5 years ago, when I was reached out to, and people were asking, could you come to our organization? Could you be interviewed for this and that? And I couldn't. I can't do all of those. There's so many hours in the day and in the week. So I really had a hard time coming up with people who would have complementary expertise. But now that when I get requests to comment on something, I'd have no trouble at all. I can I put this list of copy paste sort of email addresses and contacts with people that I say, okay, you should ask them, and they're actually better experts on that. And not many of them are actually computer scientists, and that's changed now that AI is becoming such a pervasive thing in the society and the industry, that there's people with sociology or law or education or pedagogy backgrounds that are AI experts. And I think that's now changed, because it was a discussion that was going around maybe 5 years ago, a little bit around the fact whether you can be an AI expert if you can't code, let's say, or if you can't do the math. I think now it's being understood that that's actually not, it's not an issue if you can't code. There's so many aspects of AI that are, again, not solvable by coding. Like no matter how much you code, you can't solve sort of some of the sort of labor market problems. These are political, economic questions, societal questions. So that's why I said that. I don't know, maybe, the Finnish special sort of aspect of this discussion and discourse in the society is that maybe it's easier for us because we're such a small country and we know people from various walks of life. I know, politicians, I know, like, members of the parliament, but then again, I know kindergarten teachers, and I know, well, I guess as an academic, I know other academics from all possible fields, probably, or almost, and I can then sort of reach out to them, and the fact that we trust each other makes it so easy that we have this discussion where many voices are heard, not sort of gatekeeping, so that, oh, this is a computer science topic, we don't let other people talk about it. So maybe that's something, as a in terms of the Finnish versus other countries approach to that.
What about the incentive structure? Do you see differences in how, because so much of AI development in the United States, and especially the VC culture here, is very different, I would think, than in Finland?
Yeah, well, that then goes into maybe sort of not my area of expertise so much. Again, I would sort of have to sort of recommend that that other experts that can say much sort of more thoughtful things about that. But my kind of almost like a layman thinking of that is that it's basically sort of the capitalistic mechanisms and sort of the market dynamics. They probably enforce a lot of the sort of dynamics where you're like, for instance, the approach to regulation that in the US, it's really sort of ensuring that the companies do well and they're competitive and they attract a lot of investments. They are very much prioritized. And in Europe, I think the sort of the hard rules and the hard boundaries and things that go first and foremost are human rights and rights of the citizens, and the civil society voices are really sort of heard and appreciated. And I think that's sort of reflected in a lot of the outcomes. I'm not saying that, as Europeans, that's the one and only approach and it doesn't have any problems, because, economically, of course, there are issues with the economic competitiveness of the European market. And even Finland, we're like currently experiencing kind of problems because the national debt is increasing and we can't kind of sustain the expenditure without raising taxes, and the current government is refusing to do that. So they're kind of cutting the benefits and the services. So that's kind of, we're being hit by that. But one of the huge problems is that we're not able to attract international investments, whereas the US is, and then also sort of a lot of the sort of talent is attracted to that investments, of course, because then you get like higher salaries and so on. So it's not like it's not without problems. It's also problematic in terms of how we're able to compete, and it's a tough nut to crack.
Absolutely, there are no easy answers, and the reason I always pose this question is I do believe that we should all at least understand the basics of how economy works, because these systems are not built in a vacuum, right? They reflect the context, they reflect the societal values, they reflect the economy, the prioritization. So what's interesting that you just said, you hit the nail on the head, even though without meaning to, is that Europe and Scandinavia leads with human rights and rights of labor first, and the American version reads with stakeholder interest, profitability first. Neither approaches are perfect. Both have their pros and cons, but it's at least that's a very clear distinction. regardless of again, not one way or another. I'm not saying either is perfect, but it's definitely a key distinction between the two approaches.
Yeah, and just one thing I wanted to add is that I'm not trying to say that the sort of regulation is the problem in Europe. There was a piece in the newspaper in Helsinki just before I left here by I hope I'm not sort of getting the name wrong, but Anu Bradford, who's a professor at Columbia, and she was writing that this narrative that the regulation on AI that Europe is now pushing forward with the AI Act, it's a huge package that's coming in force in the coming 2 years. So some people are sort of building this narrative that this is the reason, and this like heavy regulation is the reason why the European economies are struggling. But she was saying that there are so many other reasons that this can't explain that, at least not as the primary reason, the economic issues with the industries. It's more like the attitude and the sort of idea that, for instance, when entrepreneurs take risks, who is gonna come in when there are problems, when there's bankruptcies, and how that affects their future plans, and that sort of has big impact on the risk taking willingness to take risks, and I think from the investor's point of view, big risks are probably like a good thing, because you can always hedge your bets, sort of invest in 10 companies. If one of them brings back like 50 times their investments, then you're good. But from the companies and the entrepreneurs' point of view, at least in the European system, that's a problem, because then you get, when you fail, you're kind of at a dead end, or at least that's a huge problem in terms of how much people are going to invest in your companies in the future. And in the US, I suppose, and I've understood, it's just a kind of it's a badge of honor that you've went through like 5 bankruptcies, and that's showing like you're willing to take risks. So all these things, the market mechanisms and even the attitudes are part of the problem, and it's definitely not the regulation that is the problem.
I completely agree. Regulation is another one of those bogeymen they use like a scapegoat to blame anything. And it's like there are many people here, especially in Silicon Valley, who are anti-regulation. But again, it's all about moving fast, breaking things, and human lives are concerned. You can't be doing that. So that's definitely something I'll leave for another time, because there's so much to unpack there. But from a diversity perspective, I'm seeing so many companies talk about blame diversity for slowing down innovation, which is another big, we are not buying that either. When companies fail, they will start blaming whatever, whatever the popular thing is. Like right now it's diversity, it can be something else, wokeness, and there's this ongoing blame game that goes on to not acknowledge that maybe you're not hiring the right people. Maybe you should be looking at diversity. Maybe you should be looking at more women leaders, and maybe they wouldn't have so many issues. Like it can't be the same people over and over making the same mistake. So that needs to change, but I digress. So I do want to talk about, I have a story to share with you all. So you were so kind to host me at University of Helsinki. This was just a few years back. So during my trip, I went to Iceland. I did a stopover in Iceland. So here's an interesting thing. So I take the public transportation everywhere, even in New York. I take the public transportation. If I have a choice, that's what I do. So I couldn't get on the bus. So I was trying to figure out, how do I get on the bus? And I couldn't get on the bus. And there were 2 young girls who were at the bus stop. They were also waiting for the bus, right? 2 young, really sweet girls. So I said, do you know how I can get on this bus? Like, how can I go here? And they said, okay. They said, you have to download this app. And I said, okay, I tried. They tried to help me. The 2 young girls, they're sitting there at this bus stop, and they're helping me. And then I just couldn't do it. I just still couldn't do it. And then in the end, it didn't work. And you know what they did? And no adults were involved, right? So bus comes, there's a driver. They convince the driver to let me on without paying. I think the kids are going to be just fine. Like, you talk about trust. I feel like this is how you treat kids. Like, they are so capable. They were going off on their own on the bus, didn't need adult supervision. In fact, they stepped up and helped someone who was new to the country. So I would like to compare and contrast just the attitude, right, of Scandinavian countries like Finnish as to how you treat young people, children, because I feel like there's a difference. Because right now, and Gabby can share the link with you, I find that in Scandinavia, kids are encouraged to be independent, curious, thinkers like you, right? You said curiosity is such a big part of why you became a computer scientist or professor. But in America right now, there are several laws that have been passed to prevent minors from being on social media sites, to gather more information, right? So privacy advocates are worried about it. And so there's a link to some of that, what's going on for folks. So I'm excited to have you talk about the more enlightened approach that you all use, and especially your new project. It's called Generation AI. So can you please share a little bit more about like what was the thinking and also how it works? Because I've been fascinated by it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be happy to. That's a nice story from Iceland. And I haven't been to Iceland myself, but
Wow.
but in the Nordics and in Finland, it is true that the kids are going about at an early age, and they can sort of go to the school on their own. Don't have to be taken by adults, and it's kind of this trust and safety is of course a very nice thing to have in the society, making our lives easier, and I guess making us happier. But indeed the problem that is sort of, let's say you take the case of TikTok that is now in the media here, and it's also the same discussion now taking place in Finland, whether TikTok should be banned or whether there should be strict age limits that are enforced. That discussion seems to be very simplistic. The approaches and the solutions that are proposed are like just ban the whole thing and so on, or let everything be. And it's probably, I fear it's mostly driven by people who have really a very basic understanding of what is happening and what the kids are doing there, and what is taking place in their lives, and what are the consequences and so on. So that the solutions are also turned out to be very simplistic. And what we've been trying to do is bring up the young people's voices more into the discussion, because that's their lived experience, and it's also that they have the experience, but also they have relatively mature ideas of how it should be done, what is wrong with it, and what could be fixed, what could be done to fix it, and so on and so forth. I'll give one example of this Generation AI project, which is a large project that started about 1.5 years ago in Finland. Multiple universities involved, computer scientists, educational scientists, legal scholars, people from various fields, looking into how AI should be, let's say, transforming what we teach at schools. Not so much that AI would be used as a, let's say, as a tool for teaching, all these like AI-based tools. That's a kind of another matter. But we're mostly thinking of what are the skills that the kids need to learn in order to do well in a society where AI is being used, and especially social media is one of my top concerns there. That how are social media platforms affecting the way we seek information, issues with misinformation and other problems, bullying and so on. And one thing we've done there in this project is very recently, we released it maybe a few months ago, and now we're like doing experiments with schools, so going to the classrooms and working alongside with the teachers and offering these like new types of approaches in terms of teaching and social media, AI related topics. And so one concrete example was that we created an app. You did mention that you have an Instagram account for women in AI ethics, and so Instagram is something that we also sort of thought, okay, well, the kids know exactly how that works, and they're most of them at least, and it's easy for them to relate to it. So what we did is we kind of replicated Instagram. So we created an app that is that looks like Instagram. You can browse images, and you can comment, you can share everything. But it's safe to use in the classroom, so that no data is being transmitted anywhere. So it's kind of local on the user's own device. And then what happens is in the classroom that the students would use that app, and they really love it. I mean, these were fifth graders, so in Finland they'd be maybe 11 years old kids, and they were really, I would almost say, like becoming addicted,
to your fake Instagram.
Our educational tool. And they were like, when we paused to explain a bunch of things to them every now and then, they would say, "Oh no, why did you pause it? Well, we want to keep going." So they were very sort of enthusiastic, and then, as I said, like, it sort of, the idea was that it's easy for them to relate to it because they've seen that such things before. Okay, so they would be shown that using it, and then after a while they'd be shown, okay, this is the data that is being recorded of you or of the account that they created. It's not like there's no names again, but still, and they'd see like, okay, I looked at this picture for 8.7 seconds, and that other picture I looked at 12 seconds, and that is recorded. And then if you comment, you get like more these engagement points and all that. So we kind of fashioned it similar also to what we believe as well. First, we can tell what's happening kind of behind the hood, under the hood, behind the curtain in Instagram. So we kind of went through all the patents that these companies are filing. And so that's the mechanisms that they're at least sort of probably using. So these engagement scores and all that, and then building profiles of the users. And the kids were able to understand that very well, and they had no trouble understanding, oh, these are the mechanisms, these are the dynamics that will arise from that. And then the last thing that was the most impressive to me, what the kids did, was that they would write letters. We invite them and ask them to write letters to decision makers, to again sort of give them a voice and have them sort of formulate an informed opinion after seeing how it works and thinking and being sort of discussing at the class, to form an opinion and express that to decision makers as to how social media platforms, let's say, should be changed so that they'd be better for the kids, so that they wouldn't be so harmful, and they'd be, all the good sides would be amplified. And indeed, they would say that there are good things about these platforms. And I think that's very important to realize, that we shouldn't sort of demonize them and say that, okay, this is all bad, let's just ban everything. That's not what the kids really want. So why, like, what's the point? And then they do, and they're not naive. They would say, oh, that's a problem because I spent too much time on that platform. I spent too much money because the ads are so well, personalized. And they would have very nuanced ideas. And I was just thinking that if we would just get the discussion, the public debate that is going on in the media and everywhere, and the political discussions that are now going on here, again, like related in relations to TikTok and all that, if we would elevate that discussion to the level that these 11-year-olds would have, I think it would be just a leap forward. And I think that would be just a much nicer outcome than the thing that we would say, okay, it's all bad, let's just ban it. All screens are bad. It's just, pencil and paper through and through. So that was kind of what I just experienced a couple of weeks ago when we went to the schools and we were able to sort of experiment and see what happens when you do that type of teaching.
Thank you so much. And one thing I do want to point out, it's about, you can be skilled and not understand how the technology works. You can use a tool and you can be very savvy at using the tool. But what you're doing is you're helping them understand how it works, what's going on behind the scene. And that literacy piece, the reason you're seeing such superficial and shallow discourse here, very binary, it's good or bad binaries, is because people are making those decisions do not understand how these things work. And even the experts that they invite to opine on these things are not experts in the sense that they understand how it works. They know how to apply that. But that doesn't make them experts on how it works or what the ethical implications are. And I like how you said we elevate to the level of 11th graders because like 11-year-olds, because they know. I mean, when I meet young people, and if you treat them with respect and you're not like, oh, you're a young child, and you treat them, actually talk to them, I am always blown away how smart they are. They get it. They're on these tools. They're savvy. They understand. It's explaining to the adults, the older people who didn't grow up with this technologies is hard because they don't understand completely what these are, and their only knee-jerk reaction is shut down everything. That is not the solution. That is not the answer. We cannot keep going down this path. So your approach is absolutely amazing. I would love to invite you again, and maybe we can do a demo, look at how it works, and see if maybe we can also have more people adopt that mindset, because I don't think I'm alone in this. I think we all believe that literacy is important, understanding consequences is important, and I don't like the idea of taking agency away from children.
Yeah, I really appreciate you using the word agency. I think that's one of the sort of key goals of the Generation AI project. Just ensuring that in this like digitalized world, we're not sort of degrading agency and even like ability to make life decisions, because that is sort of the risk that these recommendation algorithms that track your media consumption and information seeking so strongly, there's a risk that we'd sort of be losing on our ability to actually voluntarily make decisions. They're kind of even sort of subconsciously are nudging us towards certain directions without us maybe sort of realizing that. And I think that's a concern that needs to be taken seriously.
I agree. It's a downward, it's a slippery slope, because where do we stop? Where does this stop? Right? If we keep continuing to having politicians decide what we can do, what we can't do, on the guise of protecting us, safety of minors, but then exploiting that.
Politicians, right? But the social media platforms, I think that sort of the power concentration with these massive platforms is a huge concern. So it's sort of maybe, even.
And they're not helping. I agree. Social media platforms are not helping at all. And this is not saying in favor of social media platforms or TikTok or any of these platforms. This is not about the specific platforms. It's about the ability for us to take back control and trust that given the right tools and given the information, people will make the right decisions. But whether they do or not is not the point. The point is they should be allowed, they should be given the freedom to make those decisions, and like you did with this
informed decisions. First, like inform them. And again, sort of one thing to add is that we're doing this with like kids, 11-year-olds and so on. And you might think that, okay, well, that's working because there are some sort of digital natives. But I think this like the notion of digital natives is being challenged, and I think that it's not that the kids would sort of automatically somehow like understand the mechanisms. I think they still need to be explained that, and I also don't think that grown-ups have like many things missing, in our brain that we couldn't understand things. So I'm finding it very encouraging that we're teaching these things to kids and they're able to get the point, and I'm sure we can also do the same for adults. So I think it's sort of maybe even easier to approach the theme as an adult when you know that, okay, well, this was basically this teaching approach and these concepts were explained in a way that kids can understand it. So then probably, we can do that too, even politicians.
I remain hopeful. I'm optimistic as you. Yes, it's rubbing off on me. I appreciate that so much. So just a heads up, we only have 10 more minutes, and we have Professor Timo Roos, who has joined us from Helsinki. We are in this beautiful space thanks to the Finnish consulate in New York, and super excited to have him. And we are talking about my next question for him is University of Helsinki announced the Helsinki Doctoral School announced 100 AI doctoral. These are paid positions in AI. There was the first round that just concluded in April, early April, but there's another round coming up. So I love that you're here. Can you please tell us what is the motivation? These are a lot of paid positions. and people will get paid to do this research in this emerging space. What was the thinking behind it, and what backgrounds do you think are best suited for it? Because we have students, we are mid-career, late-career folks here who might be considering going back to school. What is your advice to them?
Yeah, so this thing is sort of, as I said, the Finnish government currently is trying to cut costs everywhere, and that's being a problem in terms of supporting research and education and other important things. But one thing that they did invest in is they actually decided to fund 1,000 PhDs in the coming 3 years in various fields. And AI was selected as one of the sort of focal areas. And so 100 PhDs in AI. And that's a national network where I think most universities in Finland are involved and included. And so these positions will be distributed across the country. There's, of course, big universities, many big and high-ranking universities in the Helsinki region. So that's like where most of them are going to be. But it's still like it's a national thing, just sort of to say one thing. And I was very pleased when I noticed that they're actually going to take this pretty open definition of what AI is and what backgrounds people should have. So there's, for instance, one particular kind of subheading, let's say, if you will, on AI and education. So people with educational
I think you have some people here.
Will then sort of be evaluated in that category, and there's other themes like AI in society and so on and so forth. So it's not only computer scientists. Of course, there's quite a few of them probably going to be computer scientists, machine learning experts, and so on. But it's more diverse than that. So anyone interested in considering doing a PhD should probably, related to AI, should probably take a look at that. And there's other fields as well. So if people are interested in those as well, like in the cancer research, there's one big area, educational science, and sort of some I think mathematics. I think was one. So there's a lot of open positions, and we are evaluating now the first round of applications. I think we got 2,500 applications to the AI positions, so the competition is there. But if you put in a good application, then you should have chances, because there's so many positions that we're able to fund.
Excellent. Gabby did post a link in the chat, so folks take a look if you're interested. But also you would have application. Yes, there's a second round. Good question.
Yes,
there'll be second.
Post on April 2nd, and that's true. So that's the 2,500 applications that we got in the first round. But there's only 50% of the positions going to be allocated roughly to the first round. And then in the fall, I don't remember the date yet, there's going to be another round of applications.
Right. Amazing. So get ready for fall. We have the link. Just bookmark it. Put a reminder on, get your applications ready if you are planning to go back to school. So you definitely have an opportunity there. So let me think about a couple of additional things. I think folks wanted to get in, we only have one more question, and I know you have a tight schedule. So what we typically do is we have an hour that we record. I will finish my questions at this point, but then we go into Q&A. But I know you have to run. You have a train. I see your bags here. So we will decide after the recording stops whether we stay on, if you can. If not, I completely understand. Folks do want to reach out to you. We have posted a link to your webpage, your Helsinki webpage, and it has your information. It has your contact information as well. So folks, if you're trying to reach him, just go to his website, all the links as Gabby has put in there, and you can't connect with on LinkedIn, that's totally fine. But here, there you go. Persons, you're right there. You got all the information, Gabby, like amazing. Thank you.
So it's asking for the Generation AI program or project link. That's a little bit, I don't remember it sort of from the top of my head, but if you look up Generation AI, you won't find it, because there's like 10 projects with that name, and they're getting all the sort of first hits on Google. But if you add the keyword sort of the secret key STN, So that's for the Strategic Research Council. So Generation AI STN.
What does the STN stand for?
It's it's a Finnish word, but it stands for the Strategic Research Council. That's the funding agency that is funding that project. So STN. If you add that, then you'll find it, and there's a bunch of materials there. So it's a good question. So, but if you can find it, maybe share that on the chat.
Yes, please do. Thank you. So I have one last question. There's something else happening in fall. We have a lot of exciting things happen in fall, but every year in fall, we announce the 100th. Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Gabby. Thank you. Every year, end of year, we announce 100 Brilliant Women in AI Ethics list. So just for those of you who are joining us for the first time, the way Women in AI Ethics started was with the publication of the first 100 Brilliant Women in AI Ethics list back in 2018. And since then, this list has been published every year in fall. We source this list from our directory, which is on our website. So if you don't have it, just run to our website, go womeninaiethics.org. We have the directory. There's a nomination form, and Gabby can share the nomination form with you. But we look at all the nominations. The only criteria is for the list that you should not have been nominated in the previous year, because we want to acknowledge like new names, new 100 names every year. So you won't see the same people over and over again, because we know there are more women working in this space, and we do want to encourage that. I have a question for Teemu. Professor Roos, you have been on the selection committee for a while, for years now. I would like two questions for you, for folks who might be interested in nominating themselves or nominating a peer. What has been your experience with the review process, and what are some key attributes and promising things that you look at in a nominee and say, yes, I think this would be a good person to acknowledge and recognize this here?
Well, that process and sort of that review process and having the meetings and discussions with you and other members of the panel is always something that I look forward to. Of course, it takes a bit of time and all that. We're all busy, but still the nice thing about that is that, as you said, it's every year a different set of names. So which is good, because I think it gives the idea that this is not a ranking. It's not like who is the best, who's the second best, who's the third, and who doesn't even make it on the list. It's not like there's no like competitive notion in making up that list. It's just like saying, okay, well, these people should probably be getting a little bit more of a platform. They should sort of be promoted and amplified. So I think it's a very positive idea behind the whole thing, and that's nice. And then the other thing that is very nice is that when I review those lists, every single time we find 100 and many more are so, let's say, worthy in a way of recognition, and it's really encouraging to see again the diversity that I referred to before, that AI expertise can mean so many different things. And there are so many different angles and backgrounds, and well, really different people that are AI experts, and that is really something very nice to see, and it just makes you kind of feel proud for all those people that they're doing such great work, and that is a very positive sort of thing every year that we go through that list. About the sort of what we look into these people is, I think we've had very good discussions and very sort of well-grounded justifications that we look for, and the principles that we look for. That these people need to work on something related to AI. You know, it's very difficult to define exactly what that means, but I think we haven't really had any problems sort of drawing the line with enough precision. But they need to sort of work on something related to AI. And not only that, it's not so that we'd be like the most brilliant AI researcher, you would make it on the list, because there also needs to be this other fact that you need to be doing something in a way, you know, the ethics work there. It has to be there. You have to ensure that these people are making an extra effort to do things responsibly, right? And that can mean, again, various things, but we need some proof of sort of sustained efforts to somehow do things more responsibly. It can be, again, various things. But our discussions usually end up being unanimous that, okay, we agree, okay, that is the proof. And then sometimes we kind of miss that and we say, okay, well, we're going to have to sort of see maybe next year then they sort of have established that they are indeed committed to doing things responsibly. So that's the process, and it's a very positive process every year.
Absolutely. We make it as easy as possible to for you to nominate yourself or a peer. The heavy lifting is done by folks like Teemu and others who basically do the heavy lifting of reviewing each profile, 100.
You, I think you do the biggest way.
Thank you.
We're just there to help.
I appreciate that so much. It is such a team effort. We have such interesting discussions behind the scenes, but we are pretty unanimous. And every year it does get harder and harder. So many amazing people out there, so many amazing women doing great work. And the bar is just getting higher and higher, which is an amazing sign. And we don't make you reapply twice. If you didn't make it this year, don't worry. If you're on the directory, we will consider you next year. Maybe there's some progress you made in your career, but we are there for you. We are not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. And as long as you continue to do the work, we will find you. We will make sure that you're considered. So that said, I had to wrap this up, being respectful of Professor Timo Roos's time. Again, thank you so much for joining us on such short notice. I enjoyed this conversation a lot and appreciate everything you do for women in AI ethics.
My pleasure.
Thank you all for joining. You guys have been amazing. Sign up for a newsletter if you haven't, and we'll keep sending you more links and introducing you to more folks.
Yeah, congrats to all who made it until the end.
Yes, thank you. And just a heads up, I know some people are from Europe. I will be in Munich. I might be in Munich. I'm definitely planning to be in Paris and Geneva later and Italy in May. So if you're around, if you're there, please look me up on LinkedIn, get connected, and hopefully I'll see some of you in person soon.